Malik Willis is the hot name, and the Houston Texans are on the clock. We're going to get into it all today on Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and NFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, as always, joined by my co-host, Ryan Tracy. And y'all know what it is, man. Wednesday episodes, we got John Harris with us to talk all things Houston Texans. He covers the Houston Texans, beat writer, radio host. See, I'm starting to get it. I'm down everything to deal with Houston. And then we also have later on to help John Harris pick for Houston, who's now on the clock, John Hickman. He covers the Houston Texans for the Locked On Network. So this is good stuff because I've been trying to see how high is Malik Willis going to climb. It seems like the buzz is getting really up there. And I know, John, you have some takes on maybe either how his pro day was and how it might pertain to the Houston Texans when it's time for them to be on the clock.
Well, here's where I think the connect is for Malik Willis. I was asked this question. I got back from the Senior Bowl. We all got back from the Senior Bowl, and it was like the one player everybody wanted to ask me about was Malik Willis. How good was he? And, of course, like, my God, he was fantastic. I mean, it was – I don't know how you could put it any other way. I mean, he was the –
You were really excited about his arm. That was one thing. You emphasized how strong of an arm he had. And I think – the way when it came off, the way you said it with the velocity that he had on his passes, maybe some people thought you were over exaggerating. But I think when you see some of the things he did at Senior Bowl pro day workout, it's like, oh no, the arm is as strong as advertised.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, just thinking about it. I mean, I take a second and just ponder, like, wow, what if I would have been able to throw a football like that? I mean, how many years would I have played in the NFL? But Malik he's more than that. But obviously, when you see it, and especially when you see it in a pro day setting, you just start to go, oh man. Of course, there are always those guys that look great in a pro day setting. I think Ryan Leaf looked great in a pro day setting. Jamarcus Russell went nuts, and Al Davis is like, I want that guy, and it just didn't go well. So you can be enamored with a player's attributes, there's no doubt. But I think in going back and watching Malik a couple more times, man, I got more intrigued by the playmaking, the ability to throw off platform, to do some different things. I thought, now there are still some inconsistencies in his game. But where I think this comes into play for the Texans at number 3 isn't so much as to one of my buddy's questions to me was, do you think the Texans is 3 too high to take Malik Willis? And I don't think it is, but I just don't think it's the Texans to do it. So all this Malik Willis discussion to me is like, yeah, it's like catnip, because it's like, hey, all you teams that really like Malik Willis, come on up to number 3. Let's go. Carolina, you're going to have Sam Darnold, really? You want to come up? We just had trade talks a little while ago about Deshaun Watson, so we've been connecting. So let's make it happen. We'll drop down to 6. You give us a third rounder. You give us a second rounder next year, whatever. We'll move down. You give us more picks. Hey, Atlanta, I know you want Marcus Mariota. He's fantastic, but we've had talks. You want to move 3 to 8. What can we do? Let's make a move. I don't want to say the Texans are one Malik Willis away from being back where they were in 2018, 2019. In fact, they probably need more ammunition. And they got a bunch of it from the trade they just made of some guy named Watson. So they've got more ammunition, but they need more. So moving down out of number 3 with Malik Willis getting hot and teams that need quarterback going, hey, man, we're not going to get Malik at 8. We may not get him at 6. Maybe New York, the Giants want to do it at 5. Hey, oh, man, maybe we need to get above the Giants. And so the Texans sitting there at 3 are like, come on. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Davis Mills is the end-all, be-all. I mean, Eric, you watched that 49ers-Texans game. I mean, there were moments in that game where Davis had a couple of nice throws, and then he showed his rookiness. But down the stretch, for the most part, Davis started showing that, hey, there's something there And you know what? I'm willing to give that another year. So I'd like to be able to take all this draft capital and put it in all the areas around Davis. And if it fails, then 2023 is a great quarterback class with Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Phil Dracovic, Will Rogers. There's a bunch of them coming in 2023. I can wait a year, give Davis an opportunity. And so if somebody wants to come up and be part of our trade and be our trade partner, come on, let's do it. We'll invite that and see what team wants to come up to number 3. Give us a bounty of picks to go along with the bounty of picks we already have, and away you go. So the hotter Malik Willis gets, the better off we are, I think, from a trade perspective.
John, I'm really glad that you are the grown-up in the room these days, because I think most of the Twitterverse and draft media in general has lost their minds. This is still the same guy that was on film 3 months ago. Nothing's changed. Yeah, he throws the ball like a ton of bricks. He runs around. He's great. Nothing's changed. Where 200 yards was a goal for him in some games that he did not achieve. We have to go back to performance on the field. This is one thing where I think more than any other year, because of the lack of competition for him, the traits are just carrying him up the boards. In terms of perception, that's crazy. I don't know if the teams are in on that as well. I would like to think that they're not, but hopefully the Texans are listening to you, and probably a lot of other teams as well.
Yeah.
Now, one thing about Houston Texans, and I'm looking at what they did in free agency, whether it was with guys that they just, brought back, like a Desmond King, or, guys that they signed for the first time, but they made a lot of roster moves. So is this their version of, I don't want to say going all in, but really kind of ramp up things to put the best team on field as possible to kind of speed up the process of this kind of rebuild and make Lovie Smith look kind of good? Because I'm looking at it right now. They made a ton of moves. Where do you feel like Houston is after these moves that they made?
I think in bringing the guys that they did back, Eric, they brought back a lot of veterans that, I want to say perceived, that's the wrong word, but one of their biggest traits is leadership. You talk about Desmond King, Justin Britt, Malik Collins, Kamu Grugier-Hill. Those are all organization guys. I mean, guys you want to have around your locker room. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're Pro Bowlers or, even just top-notch bona fide starters, but they're guys you want to have around your organization, because once you get – they're sitting with 11 picks right now, 11 draft picks. Now, my gut tells me that Nick is going to move up and down the board, Nick Caserio. It may be 8 or 9, but still, that's 8 or 9 young dudes that are coming in. And Christian Kirksey and Kamu Grugier-Hill take the linebacker, and they start helping him. I think that's where it comes through. This is going to be a younger team, Eric, with a lot of rookies coming in. But the veterans there, I think, can merge with them together. It's not going to be one of those and I'm sure you've been in locker rooms before where the vets are like, no. The young bucks, they stay over there. They're not going to take my job from me. I think this is more, hey, we're going to, what's the right way? We're going to pass this on to the young guys. We're going to help the young guys. And the guys they brought back, I think, are going to be instrumental in that. So it's going to be an interesting mix of guys that have been around, that have seen kind of it all, and these rookies. And then if they can kind of come together as they did a little bit last year, I think that's going to help them. I don't think anybody here is really of a mindset, oh, we're going to the playoffs. But I do think it's going to be a better overall football team than it was last year, even if it's younger. It might be younger, but the vets they brought in, that was the reason, was to kind of help those young guys come along. And I could see a situation where halfway through the year, 2/3 of the way through the year, you start to see the rookies start to step in to another role, the starting role. We saw that with a guy like Garrett Waller, who was at linebacker. He went pretty much all year not doing a whole lot, and then week 14 he starts and then got some time the rest of the year so the Texans staff could see him. I still think this comes down to Davis Mills and his progress. If Davis takes another step, hey, this, we could get really interesting. And I've said this in Houston a number of times, and it's not likely to happen. But what Davis showed last year, you get a little promise like, hey, okay. And then hope starts, speaking to you. What if he hits? What if a third round rookie quarterback hits? Man, that's like gold. That would be tremendous. But that's obviously not too many quarterbacks have done that. The only guy you can really think of is Russell Wilson. in the recent past. That's it. And that happens for a reason. So if Davis does hit, man, it opens us up to do a lot of different things. We'll draft capital over the next few years. But if he doesn't, and it shows this year, then we're sitting there in 2023 with a lot of draft capital to go get a young quarterback that's going to be the future of this franchise for a while.
Yeah, I think one thing that people need to remember about Davis Mills as well, this is a guy who played like 13 games at Stanford, and his coach was really high on him, Coach David Shaw. Yeah. He was like, man, if he came back, he would have been the top pick in this year's class. And the way it's kind of shaped out from the quarterback perspective, he might not be wrong. And I've said it too on 49ers shows, on this show as well. I don't know if another rookie quarterback played better than Davis Mills. So maybe he had his ups, he had his downs, and there were some strange games in there. But I thought he also did some really good things to kind of talk to the Texans like, hey, no, I am the guy, and I'm figuring it out. It's just unfortunate that sometimes when guys are drafted third round, they don't get as long as a leash as some of the other guys. One thing we are going to get into, though, is, John Harris, he was at the Texas A&M Pro Day. We're going to talk about that and how it might pertain to the Houston Texans when we come back. And then later, we also have John Hickman from the Locked On Houston Texans show, and he's going to talk to us and help us with John Harris' pick for Houston, who will be on the clock. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about Built Bar. And have you tried the Built Bar Puffs? And if you haven't, you are missing out on the best tasting, not just Built Bar that they have, but best tasting protein bar that they have. And I wasn't a believer at first. We read these things, but we were down in Mobile, Alabama. Ross Jackson, he had a bunch of those laid out. The Built Bar Puffs, tremendous. The Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They are fluffy, they are marshmallowy, and they are not just a protein bar. They are a treat and covered with 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite, and they have some incredible flavors as well. Yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're all really good, and they'll probably be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, and yes, like I said before, that includes the Built Bar Puffs as well. They are low in calorie, high in protein, and they can replace any candy bar that you have because they taste just as good, but they are better for you. All right, go to Built.com right now and scroll down to the macros chart. If you're in the macros and you count those things, you'll be blown away by what you see with these. High in protein, low in calorie, high in fiber, low in carbs. All right, most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to any candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Come on, man, it's not even a competition. These things are much better. They have all kind of really good flavors, mint brownie, coconut almond, and they're coming out with new ones all the time. And right now, one of the newer flavors, white chocolate cookies and cream, is delicious. All right, and if you come up with a flavor that you think might be good, they'll probably make it. And if they do, it'll be good as well. All Built Bars, they're made to taste good. So they worry about it tasting good first, and then they make it healthy. I don't know how they do it, but they just get it right every time. So go to Built.com right now. Use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off of your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day, the Locked On NFL Draft Show. And after you listen to this, make sure you follow the Locked On NFL. The Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NFL every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, John Harris, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you saw from the Texas A&M Pro Day and how that might pertain to some of the ways that they could potentially help a Houston Texans team.
First and foremost, there are two players that I would absolutely love to see in a Texans uniform. Ironically, they are from the Houston area, and that's Kenyon Green from out of Tascasita, which is a little bit north of Houston, and then Isaiah Spiller, running back, and then from the northwest side of Houston. Those two guys, I think, would fit pretty much hand in glove. And I actually thought Spiller worked out okay today. I thought it was all right. He was hurt at the combine. I think it was some oblique problem. There was something going on with him, but he wasn't really able to finish the workout. He was healthier, and he ran in the 4.6 range, high 4.58 range, somewhere in that range. So it was okay. And look, it's not Breece Hall. It's not Kenny Walker, and so I think he's going to definitively be third because of that. But watching him catch the ball in the backfield in his position drills, so smooth, good hands. They threw him a couple of deep balls down the field, and I thought, wow, he's really improved his hands since he's been at A&M. And that showed in the game against Colorado. He made a diving catch in the end zone to win that game against Colorado. And I thought, oh boy, that's an added dimension to his game. Good size, good thick trunk and legs. I think he is a guy, just watching him move around, I'm like, that guy's better than anybody we've had in the backfield the last 4 years. I mean, just seeing a youthful running back and thinking about what he could do for us. And then Kenyon Green, I always love Pro Day because Pro Day always has that moment of reality for some of the scouts and sometimes for, different position coaches. So a number of position coaches came to see Kenyon Green. The offensive line coaches are there. And there's kind of this hierarchy, which I found out over the years at Pro Day. If there are position coaches there, they run the drills. If they aren't, then the scouts run the drills. So there are a bunch of position coaches there, O-line position coaches there. And so this poor guy from the New York Giants was holding a bag on Kenyon Green, and they had him fire off on a down block. And I just see this guy's glasses and hat go flying. And Kenyon Green is, this guy's, 230 maybe, I don't know. And Kenyon Green, all of like 325, is like, taking him out to Brian. And I'm dying laughing. And we see that all the time. But there's two things, as crazy as it sounds, that we need more than anything else. We need interior play, guards, and we need a running back. This place really hasn't had a great running back since Arian Foster. Lamar Miller did some good things for us. Carlos Hyde had a 1,000-yard year, but none of it's been sustainable year after year. We need a young back. Last year, every back we had was like 30-plus years old. So those two guys have stood out for a while. I think what caught everybody by surprise when it was posted, I think Jane Slater from the NFL Network posted it. The 40 times were not great. The best one was Spiller. She posted a 4.63. I saw a couple of scouts say like 4.57, 4.58, which for Spiller I think is fine. But I think what really got people was Jalen Weidemeyer, the tight end. He ran a 5.03. And when you watch Weidemeyer play, you're like, that guy could play in the NFL. I know he can play in the NFL. That dude's athletic. He's got glue sticks for hands. And then he jumps a 25.5-inch vertical and a 5.03. Ryan, I don't know how that's going to fit into Rogue Analytics, but it's not going to be good.
It might be the worst.
At all. It's not good at all. And
he might be good if we plugged him in at the spot next to Kenyon Green. If you put him as a lineman, that might just be fine.
Right. And that's the thing. I think he can play. I think somebody is going to end up grabbing him in the 5th and 6th round, and they're not going to expect a whole lot. And he's going to get out there and he's going to catch everything. He's good size. I just think he's young, and I don't think he really understood, dude, you got to be ready for this. You got to be a professional now. You got to get your body ready. You got to be totally and completely prepared for this. And your mind, heart, and spirit have got to be in everything that you do from here on out. And I don't know that he was totally there. And maybe that's a lesson he learns. I don't know. But to me, the two players that I know for us would fit very well would be Isaiah Spiller and Kenyon Green. The other one that I know a lot of people want to know about is DeMarvin Leal. And he's an interesting case because I thought going into this year, he was one of the top 10 players in the country. What I saw in 2020 was a dude at 290 pounds that could rush the edge. He could bump inside and play a 3 technique. He won with some power and violence inside. He could win with quickness on the outside. And you're like, whoa, that's what an NFL versatile lineman from 3 technique out to 9 technique. You don't see that often. And then 2021 came, and he looked like a different dude. It was like every single play, he was so worried about, am I going to get hurt? I'm going to the league. I can't get hurt. What am I? And he played like that all year. I thought his testing was just average, but I was hoping he tested well because I wanted him to kind of get back in kind of the mix. But if that pushes him down in the 2nd round, I got no problems. I got no problems at number 37 saying, come on, DeMarvin Leal. Come on to us in Houston. We'll take you as a 2nd-round pick, and then let Lovey teach him and coach him. And then we got an opportunity.
Yep.
You talked about, Spiller and kind of what he was and what he could bring to a team. And when you look at the depth, or at least the running back depth chart for the Houston Texans, Rex Burkhead, and I know if I remember correctly, they extended him like middle of the year. Then you have Royce Freeman. And, there's not much after. I know Scotty Phillips is someone that they drafted late. So, what is the optimism at the running back position? And do you think maybe they will go with a guy like Isaiah Spiller. You talked about the 40-yard dash time, running close to a 4.6. Where Arian Foster, obviously he went undrafted, but he wasn't the fastest of guys. But he knew how to run that outside zone. He knew how to put the foot in the ground and get vertical and pick up yards in that way. Do you see Spiller maybe not being the fastest guy, but being able to have somewhat of that type of impact?
Absolutely. And I mean, he's the same size. I think Arian was a little bit bigger. I think Arian was like 220, 225. And Arian was so smooth. I mean, the way that he cut back zone runs was unbelievable. And he'd do it without losing ground. You see a lot of guys they'll start on an outside zone path, and then they patter their feet to be able to get back on the cut. Arian could just outside foot cut, boom, gone. And I see a little bit of that with Spiller. I think Spiller is a good pass protector. I've seen him miss a few, but he's physical. He has no problem getting up in somebody's face, but I love the way that he runs the ball inside. He's patient. There's a little bit of a Le'Veon Bell to him too. But I know growing up in Houston, he had to be a fan of Arian Foster, no doubt. To your point, Eric, about running back, the people in Houston they're dying for a young athletic running back. Dying. Like, give us anybody. Every time I say a running back name, Zamir White, yeah, we'll take him. James Cook, we'll take him. Pierre Strong, we don't know him, but we'll take him. I mean, they just want young legs. It was to a point last year where Scotty Phillips, you mentioned Scotty. Scotty was an undrafted guy for us in 2020. Really kind of fell off the radar screen at Ole Miss in 2019. He comes to us in 2020 during the COVID year. And you can see some things like, oh, okay, man, there's a little something there, but he's pretty much practice squad all year. Coming back in training camp, it's like, whoa, okay. In comparison to all these old guys, he's got some juice. And they never put him on the field. And then the one game they put him on the field, he got 3 plays. He got hurt. He's out for the year. So, but people were clamoring for Scotty Phillips. And now it's like any young running back they just want to grab onto and say, we'll take him. I don't care. Draft 3 of them. Give us 4 of them. Draft one guy that's a 3-down back. Draft one guy that could be a 3rd-down back. We don't care. Just get us a running back with some young legs and that's under the age of 30, and we'll be happy.
Awesome, man. We're going to get into much more of the Houston Texans and what exactly are they going to do at pick 3. And when we do, we'll have a little help for John Harris. We'll have John Hickman of the Locked On Houston Texans coming on live to help as well. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about Athletic Greens. And, I didn't know much about Athletic Greens until I got this care package in the mail. I'm like, what is this? And my wife is asking, what is this? And we see right now, we got Ryan Tracy. He's drinking some of that as well. I mean, this stuff is better than taking vitamins every day. It gives you your daily greens and everything that you need. The taste is tremendous. I just put it in my little shaker that they gave us and, fill it up to about 8 ounces and drink that. And I see a huge difference. And I'm a guy, I'm not used to taking a lot of vitamins. I didn't even know this was something that I needed, but I definitely did. It helps with health. It helps with, gut health. It optimizes energy. Your immune system is much better. And especially for someone like me who doesn't want to take pills every day, this was the thing that was right up my alley. I consume it daily, every morning before I get started, and it just gives me energy throughout really the rest of the day. They have all kind of really good added features to it when it comes to the health. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemical taste or any artificial flavoring or anything like that in there. It helps you get better sleep at night. There's a lot of good ways that it definitely has helped me, and I see a difference for sure. All right, and to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase of this. And you can do this all by visiting athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NFL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. I did it. You need to do it too. All right, it's time. The moment everybody has been waiting for to pick for the Houston Texans. And as promised, we have the Locked On Texans host, John Hickman, on here, one of the hosts of the show, to help John Harris pick this. So I want to talk through this a little bit. We touched on it a little bit before John Hickman had started to tune in, but I just want to clarify really quick. is a quarterback off the board for you at pick 3? For John Harris it is, but what about you, John Hickman?
I'm sorry. Yes, there's too many holes on this team outside of quarterback that I think the Houston Texans can benefit from. You just hired Lovie Smith as your head coach. Drafting a defensive player, especially since we lost our starting safety. Got a couple of backups at that position. Got Kyle Hamilton right there. You may want to partner John Grenard with Thibodeau.
Hold on, John. I hate to burst the bubble here, but there is no Kyle Hamilton. He was picked by the Detroit Lions at number 2. So at number 1, you had Aiden Hutchinson. That's who Jacksonville took. And at 2, and I know John Harris, he didn't want to hear this either. But at 2, Detroit Lions, they said they need safety help as well. They went and got Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. So quarterback is off the table here. But there are some other guys that might be able to help. Or, obviously in this scenario, there is no trade down. But John Harris, what do you think about maybe potentially having a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau, who there are a lot of people that have him as the number 1 player on their board. Seems like he's kind of slipped a little bit. I know Hickman has just talked about there potentially be some holes defensively. Is Thibodeau maybe that guy, or are you out on him as well as some of the other people I'm starting to see on social media?
I don't know that I would be out on him. I don't know if he is a great fit for our building. And I say that I'm trying to figure the right way. I just think fit has to be part of this. You got to get great football players. There's no doubt. But the fit's got to be right. And I don't know if he's the right fit for us. Trayvon Walker has been a guy that a lot of people have talked about at number 3. I just go back to the fact that if you can find a dance partner, and I've been to plenty of dances, Stag, so I know it's not that easy to find a dance partner. But if you can find a dance partner to come up to number 3 and you can move down and get to 6 or 7, I mean, look, I'm at a point at number 3 where if you said, and I think it's a little high, but if you said, take Jordan Davis, I might not be opposed to it. It's higher than I have him. I think I have him like 10 or 11 on my Harris 100. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think John brought up a great point, and that is they do need help at safety. I do think in this draft with multiple picks, there's going to be a Dax Hill. There's going to be a Jaquan Brisker a little bit later that they can add at the safety position. But like John, I mean, Kyle Hamilton's my number 1. He's been my number 1. I want him at 3. I really want him at 3. But if they don't get him, if they've got to go Trayvon Walker, I'm cool with that. Even a guy like Jordan Davis, as crazy that might sound, to go up to number 3 to do that, I'd be okay. And the other guy that we talked about, and you should know this, Eric Crocker. I know 3's a little high for Sauce Gardner.
No, it's not.
But you might be able to talk me into this one, Eric Crocker. You might be able to talk me into Sauce at 3.
Okay, so maybe John Hickman can talk, and if you guys can kind of agree on this, that'd be the selection. I talked about him being, and he can play man, of course. But I think having that range, having that ability, having that size, the man ability, but also be able to play zone. And they played a lot of zone at Cincinnati in stretches, and I thought his zone eyes were tremendous. He does his thing very well. I call pressure key, visual key, where he's able to put his hands on his pressure key and squeeze that route while having his eyes on the visual key and come off the pressure key and make a tackle in the backfield. I think he has the physicality to play in the cover 2 scheme that we've seen Houston run a lot of, and he's a playmaker. So I like him at 3 a lot. But John, is that a guy that you think would definitely fit in with not just, being a good football player, we know he's that, but maybe the culture that they're trying to build there in Houston?
It's 2 Johns. Is it?
Oh, John.
Is it my son John, or is it? Okay. No, and that was what I was getting to when we look at what Houston needs. And I was going to mention Thibodeau and trying to partner him with Gennard, which he does still make sense at number 3. But John Harris, I'd ask you, is there any cornerback on this roster that you feel comfortable with as your number 1 corner going into week 1?
No.
Not at all, right? Let's just be honest about it, right? You got Desmond King, who re-signed, and I like what King was able to do throughout the year, but I think he played a lot out of position. But when I look at Sauce Gardner, for one, I get caught up in his name. The city of Houston is Sauce City, right? But Crocker, you put it perfectly. Good in man, good in zone, right? And one thing that I love about Sauce Gardner, when I look at his tape, is his ability to make plays, man. And didn't allow a touchdown in his collegiate career, But we look at partnering him and the culture with Lovie Smith is building compared to what we got out of Houston last year with that chaotic and dysfunctional locker room. I think this year will be a whole lot different. So I think the culture will change. But Lovie wants turnovers, and he's a guy that if they do decide to throw at him, if we go off the college tape, well, it's going to be incompletion, a pass deflection, or he may be able to put his hands on the ball and maybe get a pick out the air. So I love him at 3. I've been one of the few people that I've met, talked to about with the Houston Texans about their number 3rd overall pick at maybe a reach, but I think he has star potential in the NFL. And you can never overreach on a star player like Sauce Gardner.
And this goes back, Eric, to our conversation we were talking about earlier before John came on, and that was about, I mentioned a little bit about fit. Some of the guys the Texans brought back, Malik Collins and Kamu Grugier-Hill and Christian Kirksey and Desmond King. And this is where Sauce becomes important because Sauce is from Detroit. Desmond's from Detroit. Those dudes from the D are a little different. They've got a chip about the size of NRG Stadium on their shoulders. And for a guy like Desmond who's been through it, has seen it all, to kind of be the mentor from another guy from Detroit, the more I think about this, I mean, I'll let John make the pick, but I think Sauce makes a lot of sense at number 3.
Absolutely. And I will say this. The Houston Texans have I don't know the best way to put it, but they have a demeanor, this clean-cut, white-collar, professional feel about this franchise. You look at winners, you got dogs somewhere. And Houston does not have any dogs. And I think that Sauce Gardner could be that dog defensively at that cornerback position that can really change his locker room and help change the defense. So I'm comfortable with picking Sauce Gardner at number 3.
And, we're going to do something a little different than we've done in the past. John Harris, got 2 Johns up here. You talked about, pick 37. All right, so let's say you go Sauce Gardner at the, with the 3rd overall pick. That's y'all selection. Y'all have agreed upon that. But at pick 37, now what are you looking to address? Is this an area where maybe you go receiver because you look at the room, and I love Brandon Cooks. That's the 209 Stockton homie. But it feels like outside of Brandon Cooks, there's not as much as you would ideally like. So could you guys be looking to maybe address the receiver position? I know, John Harris, you talked a little bit about some of the front, maybe going pass rush, because I know this is a deep pass rush with edge rusher class. What are y'all thinking? You guys can come together on this. What happens at pick 37?
Well, it's interesting because there was a guy that was traded last week named Sean Watson, and so he gave us, in the trade, we got pick number 13. So with pick number 13 before 37, I love having those 2 spots. First of all.
Oh, I forgot about – but we can't talk about that because we're going to bring y'all back on. We can't talk about 13 yet.
See, 37 becomes really interesting to me because I do think there are going to be some receivers, some playmaking receivers that start to fall into that range. One of those guys of Olave, I think, gosh, you start kind of looking at guys and you think you can make a case for them going at the back end of the first round. But a guy like Jahan Dotson, he's not a big guy, but he might be the right fit with Cooks and with Nico Collins because Nico's your size guy. And then you got Cooks and you got Jahan who can do pretty much anything on a football field. Maybe that's a guy they end up looking at. Potentially, it's going to be tough because the guy that I would love from A&M would be Kenyon Green, but I think he falls in between 13 and 37. I think he can be a tone setter up front on your offensive line. I think those guys are absolutely in the mix. And then safety. I think Dax Hill goes in the first round, who I would love. I think Dax Hill would be fantastic. But a guy like Jaquan Brisker, you talk about, as John mentioned, you'll have some dogs, some dudes with a little bit of edge. You got a guy like Sauce Gardner in your secondary, and you got a guy like Jaquan Brisker in your secondary. You got some dogs for sure. Yeah. Maybe that's a spot where a guy like Jaquan Brisker goes, or maybe a playmaking, versatile type safety, kind of in the Javon Holland mold, a little bit smaller, Jalen Petrie from out of Baylor. I think I got him like in my top 40, right around that spot, number 37 for Houston. Jalen Petrie can do a lot on a football field, and so he would be an interesting fit and kind of be a chess piece for Lovie Smith to play around with. So Jalen Petrie for Baylor would be interesting at 37 also.
John Harris, not John Hickman, but John Harris, I gotta ask you this one question because I would love for Houston to take a receiver. I think if we're going to commit to Davis Mills at quarterback, we have to do like every other franchise, at least attempt to do it, is put weapons around them. And I think that when you look at running back, you can get a running back between, we got 2 4th-rounders now and a third. I think we have 2 3rd-rounders that you can kind of get a running back out of that would make sense for this franchise. And there are a lot of receivers. So if Christian Watson falls to 37 at 6'4", and Croc, I remember Alabama. Now we're cooking at Alabama. That was Croc's guy. And then he had an amazing Senior Bowl. But I think when he stepped out on that field around a 4.3, man, everybody was kind of like,
do it.
Yo, he kind of tested like Calvin Johnson a little bit, right? I saw some charts and they kind of
easy now.
Well, no, but in terms of my boy Ryan, in terms of testing wise, I saw a couple of charts and he kind of checked off some of the same things that Calvin Johnson did. And so I'm looking at Brandon Cooks, I'm looking at Nico Collins, and I like Nico as a possession receiver, and I like Brandon Cooks as everything he can do in the field. But if Watson is available at 37,
I'm glad you said him. He's phenomenal.
I'll take him.
Say no more. It's like my wife walked in and said, I'm making cake for your birthday. You're like, good. She's trying to tell, well, it's chocolate. No, it's cake. I'm good. No, it's chocolate with ice. No, I don't care. It's good. You said it's cake. Christian Watson, that's all you had to say, John. I'm good. I wish I would have said him. He is fantastic at 6'4", 205. I think what's interesting about Watson, he's a track guy from Tampa, Florida, Plant High School, who ended up going to NDSU. You give me some guys from some South Florida, I'm fine with. Now, a lot of guys from South Florida come in there with a little bit of an edge. You're kind of like, man, we got to rein this guy in. He's not like that. He's, I don't want to say soft-spoken, but he's a guy I think that would fit very, very well. And you add his size and speed with Nico's size and Brandon Cooks all around. You're right. Davis Mills got to have somebody to throw the football to. There's no doubt. I think at 37 pick is going to be really interesting. Watson will be that guy. I like him. And it would
be also blocks well too. I like that about him. I like a receiver that blocks. That's just me. I would also say if he's not there, and if Jermaine Johnson is available at 37, edge out of Florida State, I'd take him in a heartbeat.
I think he's going top 15.
If Jermaine Johnson's there at 37, I'll run naked to Las Vegas and make the pick for us. I would bam. Jermaine Johnson at 37.
We can all run naked.
I mean, if we need to, telling you, if you can guarantee me Jermaine Johnson at 37, first of all, I'll be like, wait, is something wrong with him that I don't know about? Number 2, to Jason Brown from like Last Chance You do something that we don't know about. Like, what's going on? Pick number 13. I know we got to wait, but
I would love Jermaine at 13.
That might not be. I mean, you come away with Sauce Gardner and Jermaine Johnson at 3 and 13.
That'd be nice. And we'll see if he's available for y'all as we continue this process. But, man, John Hickman, John Harris, definitely want to thank both of you for coming on the show. And, fans, we want to thank you for listening and making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go ahead. Well, I would say second listen, but it's probably your first looking at the Locked On numbers. Locked On 49ers with myself, Brian Peacock. Also listen to Locked On Chiefs with Ryan Tracy and Locked On Texans with John Hickman. And, of course, we got John Harris in there as well. FootballTakeover.com and everything he has going on with the Houston Texans. Make sure you tune into that as well. But that's going to do it for this episode. I want to thank you again, but we are out. Peace.